Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 8, called The Churning of the Milk Ocean. This is text number 21. Please repeat. Dharma kvachit tatra na bhuta sauhridam. Tyaga kvachit tatra na mukti karanam. Viryam napumsos tyajavega nishkritam. Nahi dvitiyo gunasanga varjita. Religion. Kvachit. One may have full knowledge of. Tatra. Therein. Na. Not. Bhuta sauhridam. Friendship with other living entities. Tyagaha. Renunciation. Kvachit. One may possess. Tatra. Therein. Na. Not. Mukti karanam. The cause of liberation. Viryam. Power. Na. Not. Pumsa. Of any person. Asti. There may be. Ajavega nishkritam. No release from the power of time. Na. Nor. He. Indeed. Dvitiya. The second one. Gunasanga varjitaha. Completely freed from the contamination of the modes of nature. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Someone may possess full knowledge of religion, but still not be kind to all living entities. In someone, whether human or demigod, there may be renunciation, but that is not the cause of liberation. Someone may possess great power and yet be unable to check the power of eternal time. Someone else may have renounced attachment to the material world, yet he cannot compare to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, no one is completely freed from the influence of the material modes of nature. Purport. The statement, Dharma kvachit tatra na bhuta sauhridam, is very important in this verse. We actually see that there are many Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, and religionists of other cults who adhere to their religious principles very nicely, but are not equal to all living entities. Indeed, although they profess to be very religious, they kill poor animals. Such religion has no meaning. Srimad Bhagavatam 128 says, Dharma svanushtita pumsam vishvaksena katha suya notpadayet yadiratim shrama eva hi kevalam. One may be very expert in following the religious principles of his own sect, but if he has no tendency to love the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his observance of religious principles is simply a waste of time. One must develop a sense of loving Vasudeva. Vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabha. The sign of a devotee is that he is a friend to everyone. Suhridam sarvabhutanam. A devotee will never allow a poor animal to be killed in the name of religion. This is the difference between a superficially religious person and a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We find that there have been many great heroes in history, but they could not escape from the cruel hands of death. Even the greatest hero cannot escape from the ruling power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead when Krishna comes as death. That is described by Krishna himself. Mrityu sarva harashchaham. The Lord, appearing as death, takes away a hero's so-called power. Even Hiranyakashipu could not be saved when Nrsingadev appeared before him as death. One's material strength is nothing before the strength of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So this verse is spoken by Lakshmi Devi as she is attempting to select who her husband will be. This is in the story of the churning of the ocean, Samudra Manthan, and after the poison emerges and the various good elements emerge, like Uchaishrava, the horse, and Airavata, the elephant, and everyone lays claim to one particular item that emerges. This is mine, this is mine. The Brahmanas like Surabhi, the cow, because she gives ghee and milk. But then finally, Lakshmi Devi appears, the goddess of fortune, Shri. And because she's the one entity who is desired by everyone. Everyone wants her. It's not just the Devas or not just the Danavas. It's not just the human beings or the sages. Everyone wants her because she's the goddess of fortune. But the question really is, who does she want? And she has the opportunity to do Swayamvar, to select her own husband. And these verses are very, very beautiful. There's 3 or 4 verses because they really highlight the uniqueness of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna or Lord Narayan, right? Why he stands above every other Deva and every other Rishi and every other sage, because basically everyone who is anyone in this universe is assembled at that place, right? So any qualified groom, it's just like if a Swayamvar happens, we can say, oh, she selected this man because such and such person was not available, was not present. But in this particular situation, every powerful entity, every powerful person from the 3 worlds, everyone is present there, right? So this is the real test of supremacy here by the goddess of fortune herself. And here in these verses, she makes very clear distinctions, criteria, not based just on personal preference. This is me, I like this person, or this person has a nice nose or whatever, but based on very clear and very logical understanding of what constitutes the perfect person, Purushottama, right? Who is the highest person, the best person? And the last verse, she began this description of how in this world everyone comes with one particular quality and then not another one that goes with it, right? That no one is the full package. We know in the story of Draupadi that she wanted in her previous life, she wanted everything in a man. She wanted this, and he should be the most handsome, and he should be the most powerful, and he should be the best archer, and he should be the personification of dharma. And she couldn't get it all in one person, right? And so therefore she got 5 husbands as a result. So here, Lakshmi Devi is making the same point, that one person may have a lot of tapasya, a lot of ability to do austerity, and yet they may not be able to control their anger, like Durvasa Muni. Or someone else may have a lot of knowledge, but they may not be compassionate to other living entities. So there's only one person in this world who has that complete package, 100% of every samasta kalyana gunadham, right? He who is the abode of, or the sagara, the ocean of all good qualities, that can only be Lord Narayan or Lord Krishna. So that's the context of this particular verse. And Srila Prabhupada here in the purport is focusing about 75% of his purport on the first line of this verse, this particular line which he says is very important in this verse. Dharma kvachit tatra nabhuta sauhridam. That in some people we find dharma. You can find dharma some places, and yet it is not accompanied by bhuta sauhridam. Adherence to religious principles is not connected to compassion for other living entities. So this word dharma, right? Such a powerful word. And I want to think about this word from the very basics of its meaning, the word dharma, to its highest understanding of what dharma is, and trace that word through Srimad Bhagavatam, but also in the scope of the world's religions. As a result of my profession at the university, I have to teach and study various different religions of the world. And Prabhupada here in this purport is specifically mentioning different traditions, Hinduism, Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, and pointing out an important flaw in all of the world's religions, in most of them. Most people who practice those religions, not in the traditions themselves, but he's saying specifically the people who practice, Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, and religionists of other cults. There's one very important flaw that he's pointing out, a flaw that Lakshmi Devi is pointing out, that they may be dharmikas, they may be practicing dharma, but there's no bhuta sauhridam, there's no compassion for other living entities. So, what is this concept of dharma, right? It comes from the root dhar, which means to hold or to support. And it's very closely connected to the ancient Vedic idea of rita. So in the Vedas, Rig Veda, Yajur, Sama, Tharva, this idea of rita is there. What is right? Actually, it's the same word in English. The word right and rita is the same word. English, this word comes from the Sanskrit word rita. What is right? What is dharma? That which supports this world. So we see every morning the sun rises and the sun sets perfectly according to schedule. The tides, they come in and they leave perfectly according to schedule. The animals, they mate and they have children and they raise their young in just the right season and according to schedule. Certain kinds of flowers and certain kinds of fruits are born in a particular season and never else. Right? Everything in this world works according to dharma. Dharma, as its most foundational, is the idea of order, the proper order of things in this world. That order which Krishna has set. Therefore, the Upanishads, they describe that the wind blows, Bhagavatam also, that the wind blows out of fear of the Supreme Lord. The fire burns out of fear of the Supreme Lord. This is all according to his order. Everyone by force, by fear, by their nature functions according to dharma, the natural order of things, except for human beings. For us, Krishna has given us this little tiny modicum of free will, a slight little bit, depending on which guna we're in. We've got this little bit of free will, and that free will we can use to act according to dharma or to act against it. And therefore, only in human society we have governments. Only in human society we have laws and punishment and morality and religion, because of this importance to control the animalistic nature of human beings and make them work according to the Lord's plan of dharma. So each religion of the world is attempting to do this. How to connect people to the natural order of things, to this world. Some say it's by ritual, that by proper performance of ritual, like Mimamsa philosophy, Adhato Dharma Jignyasa, by performance of proper ritual, we can connect with this natural order. We can do what is right for a human being, what is rita. Some say that it's by study of scripture, by cultivation of knowledge, by thinking and contemplation, we can achieve what is right for human beings. Some say it's through the process of meditation and contemplation. Some say it's through humanitarian activity. Some say it's just by being a good person in this world, raising a good family and doing pious activities, taking care of your children, protecting your society and your community. This is what is dharma. And all of these things are, of course, correct. They're right. All of these are dharma. But none of them, the Bhagavatam tells us, is capable of fully satisfying the self. Right? And so Bhagavatam begins at that point where most other scriptures and most other religions, including Hinduism, leaves, where it stops. Bhagavatam begins at that point by saying, Dharma projita kaitavotra paramo. That we are going to dharma projita kaitava. We're going to reject any kind of dharma which does not fully satisfy the human being. And why won't these dharmas satisfy the human being? Well, because ahaituki apratihata. They are not ahaituki, they are not apratihata. They are selfish. They're driven by the individual desire, individual need. And therefore, Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Bhukti Mukti Siddhikami Sakali Ashanta Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Ataiva Shanta. That because of the selfish motivation that all these dharmas have, they can never satisfy the human being. So therefore Srila Prabhupada is quoting this verse here, beautiful verse. Notpadayet yadiratim shrama eva hi kevalam. Dharma swanushtita pumsam. That dharma which does not lead to developing this unflinching, unalloyed, unselfish love for Krishna cannot satisfy the human being. It cannot satisfy us. It will lead at some point to more misery and to more suffering. And so from this point, this idea of dharma, comes the very important point that real dharma is that which engages us in hearing Krishna Katha, in hearing about Krishna's Leela or Krishna's pastimes. You see, every religion of the world, and again I'm including here Hinduism in all of its many forms, every religion of the world speaks of God, yes. But every religion of the world speaks of God in our terms only. In terms of how God is useful to me. So we call God what? The creator of this world, the father of this world. So when we refer to God as father, who is he father of? Me, right? If we think of him as creator of this world, Pita, Jagat Karta, Shrishti Karta, then who is he creating? Me, right? This world. If we speak of God in terms of the all-powerful or the all-knowing, we're always speaking of him in terms of me, in terms of us. Every religion of the world defines God in terms of his usefulness for human beings. He's going to give me this. He's going to take care of me like this. He's going to help me in this way. Even those who are seeking mukti or moksha are still thinking of the Lord in terms of how he is useful to me. The beauty of Srimad Bhagavatam is that it raises the question, what is God? Who is God when he is not busy with us, when he is on his own? In his own home, in his own place, in his own life, who is he? Just like, as a student, as a child, when growing up you see your teachers and you think that your teachers are just teachers. You don't realize that they have a life of their own. I remember, it never occurred to me until much later that my teachers had their own families and their own life and and they sometimes got sick and needed health and time off. It was just, teacher was for me, right? This was it. Just like a child and a mother and a father. The child thinks the mother and father exist only for my sake. And that's it. That they have a life of interests and desires of their own, the child doesn't realize until much, much older. So, up to a certain point, this is how we think of the Lord in our terms. But Bhagavatam says, what is Krishna doing when he's not busy with me? What is he doing then? And here, I want to submit to you that we find one of the most unique and beautiful concepts in the history of the world, in all the religions of the world. And this is the concept of Leela. That if we ask, what is the Lord doing when he is not doing anything else, on his own terms, when he's not busy with me? The answer is so simple and yet so profound. He's playing. The word Leela just means play. That he simply plays. Because after all, what else would he do? If I were to ask you, what is the definition of work? What is the definition of play? What is the definition of work? Well, or let me ask you a more specific question. Is painting, is it work or is it play? It depends, right? If you're a painter by trade, every day you go out and you're painting, it's work. You come home and you look forward to putting down the paintbrush, washing yourself, and doing something else. But suppose you're a software programmer, computer engineer, or something else. Then you may come home, you've done with the computer, what do you want to do? You want to paint. For you, painting is play. For the painter, painting is work. What is it that makes something work? Is that we are forced to do it. We must do it. By need, by necessity, by force. That makes it work. And the same activity, if you do because you want to do it, by no force of any, by your own freedom, that becomes play. Now tell me this. What is there in this world that God, that Krishna, has to do, that he is forced to do, that he must do? Does he have to create this world? No. Vedanta Sutra describes, or our acharyas describe, that even creation of the world is tatastha lakshana. It's a contingent quality of the Lord. It's not swarupa lakshana. It's not his inner nature. He doesn't have to create the world if he doesn't want to. Does Krishna have to go get an education? Does he have to go get a job? He doesn't have to do anything because he has all the wealth and all the knowledge and all the strength and all the beauty and all the fame in this world. He doesn't have to prove himself to anyone. So what does Krishna have to do? Nothing. Therefore, there is no work for Krishna. Everything he does, even when he creates the world, or even when he goes to Sandipani Muni's ashram, whatever, it's simply because he wants to do it. And therefore, by definition, even when Krishna looks like he's working, he is only playing. Everything he does is therefore lila, or play. This is such a beautiful and such a profound concept. As far as I have found, it's not present anywhere else except in these Vaishnava traditions, this idea of lila. And therefore, if this is Krishna in his supremacy, therefore by its very definition then, the highest dharma is that which allows us to connect with that lila, which allows us to see the heart of God, to see Krishna in his essence, who he is in his own time, to participate in that lila, in that association with Krishna. That becomes the highest dharma. Therefore, Prabhupada is quoting this verse, dharma swanushtita pumsam vikshvaksena kathasuya. That if we do not develop the desire to hear about Krishna lila, to connect with this lila of the Lord, then that is not actual dharma. It is dharma, but not the highest dharma, not that which will satisfy a human being. Okay, so now we may ask, how do we know? There are so many people in this world who seem to have great attachment, interest in hearing about Krishna Lila or Krishna Katha. You can go any place and there's going to be so much discussion of Krishna's activities. And ourselves also, we may like to hear and listen and chant and so on. How do we know that this person really is pursuing dharma? How do we know that this person truly has this rati, notpadayet yadi ratim? And here, Prabhupada is saying something very significant in this purport. Right? He says, the sign of a devotee is that he is a friend to everyone. The evidence that we are actually enjoying, we are engaged in Krishna Katha, the evidence for that is that we are compassionate to other living entities. Bhuta Sauhridam. That is the visible test that is being given here by Lakshmi Devi herself. Dharma kvachit tatra na bhuta sauhridam. That if we don't have bhuta sauhridam, if we don't have the ability to be compassionate to other living entities, then whatever claim we have to be dharmikas, to be practicing dharma, that claim is empty. And Prabhupada is making this logical reverse of that statement, right? The inverse of it. He's saying, therefore, the sign that someone truly is loving the Lord, that someone is actually a developed attachment for Krishna Lila, is not even that they want to spend hours and hours and hours hearing, because after all, one can do that for show. The visible evidence is that that person's heart becomes softened enough that they are willing, that they demonstrate compassion, kindness to other living entities. And so we find that this is the fundamental principle that every religious teacher in this world teaches. Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, the whole list that Prabhupada is giving. And yet, it is the one thing that most people of religions are not able to follow. It is the standard set by everyone, and it is the standard that almost no one can actually meet. What does this mean, this compassion to other living entities? What does it mean, right? So Prabhupada is giving an expansive definition. Two things we have to ask. If we're asked to be compassionate to other living entities, two basic things. One is, who is a living entity? Who is the object of our compassion? Who should we be compassionate to? That's first. And second, what does that compassion look like? How do we be compassionate? So, who are we compassionate to, and how are we compassionate? The first question is the question of who. And that is where Prabhupada is pointing out the hypocrisy that is present in so many different traditions. That our compassion may be towards my nation, my family, my community. But that compassion is only truly real if it's grounded in our identity as spirit soul. And when we see it in terms of our identity as the spirit soul, that compassion has no end, right? It has to apply equally to an ant, to an animal, to a human being, to a demigod. One thing very interesting that we find in each of the world's religions, this point that Prabhupada is making about meat eating. You see, whenever Srila Prabhupada would meet a member of another religious tradition, what's the first thing he would talk about? Why do you eat meat, right? Your scripture says, thou shalt not kill, and yet you are killing animals. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met Chand Kazi, and they had a philosophical discussion, what's the one philosophical point that Mahaprabhu brought up? Why are you killing animals? Isn't it? We see this as a pattern, that when our acharyas, or the Lord himself, when they meet someone of any tradition, they ask this question: why is there no bhuta sauhridam? Why is there no mercy to for other living entities? we find that each of these religions teaches this point, and yet so few are able to practice. If you do a survey of every major religion, the one thing that everyone is asking us to do or is nervous about is meat eating. Start with Jainism, right? In the Jain tradition, easy, 100% rejection of any kind of animal slaughter. If you look in the Buddhist tradition, Lord Buddha taught this point. And just recently I was in Taiwan, and it's a Buddhist country, 60-70% Buddhist. And those who are serious practicing Buddhists, the monks there, they're sadhus, and even the average people, if they're serious, they're not eating meat. Right? You can find many vegetarian restaurants. In fact, not even onions and garlic they'll eat. They practice like that strictly. So not everyone in the Buddhist world, but you find that this is there, that principle is there. But even if you look at the Abrahamic traditions, like Judaism, the Jewish tradition, you have specific food regulations. They're called kosher rules. Maybe you've heard of this before. Very similar to halal. Kosher rules means, what are kosher rules concerned about? No religion of the world regulates whether you can eat an orange or an apple. This is not the concern of religion. What are they regulating? How and when can you kill an animal? And kosher rules specify you can kill the animal in this way, and only at this time, and only in such a way, and you can eat the animal flesh, but don't take any of the blood, because blood belongs to God. And don't mix the meat with the milk either, because this is not ethical. The milk is made for the protection, for the growth of the child. And you're taking the milk and you're mixing it with the meat. This is not good. So in the Jewish tradition, they will not eat cheese and then add meat on top, like in the meat pizza. They won't do that. So many rules are there, where basically the Lord is telling them, control this meat-eating business. Right? If you have to eat it like this, or eat it like that, or don't eat it at this time, or so. And many young Jewish people today say, I think the message God is trying to give us, why are we eating this anyway? The easiest way to follow kosher rules in Judaism is to be vegetarian. All the rules are followed, pretty much, more or less. Same thing you find in halal. The rules, what is halal concerned about in terms of eating? It's only meat products. Even in Christianity, the Catholics, for 1 month, they fast. And what do they fast from? Not potatoes and carrots and apples and oranges. They're fasting from meat. Every religion of the world is trying to make this point, bhuta sauhridam. Be compassionate to the least among you, Jesus Christ says. That will show your love for me, is your love for the least among you. And least means who? The animal who is defenseless, who has no support. Narada Muni says the same thing to King Prachina Barishat in Srimad Bhagavatam. Even all these yagyas you're doing, you're killing animals, they will come back and they will kill you. What is the use of all your yagyas? Every religion of the world is making this point. And yet, in each religion, we can see that very few people are practicing. Whether they be Hindus or Buddhists or Muslims or Christians, this simple point is not there. And from that we can understand that whatever dharma they may be practicing, notpadayet yadiratim, that attraction for hearing of Krishna Katha, that attraction for Krishna Leela is not there yet. So that's the first point. Who are we compassionate toward? The second point is, what does that compassion look like? How are we compassionate? For anyone less than human beings, the basic principle is ahimsa. We don't do harm for them. But for those who are higher than human beings, ahimsa is not sufficient. In order to show compassion to you, if I say just ahimsa, that is not enough for a Vaishnava. For less than human beings, yes, ahimsa is our principle. Don't kill the animal, don't kill the ant, don't do anything bad to anyone. But when we are speaking of compassion to those who are higher than animal, that is to human beings, then this bhuta sauhridam means something more. You see, ahimsa is just the starting point. They say ahimsa paramo dharma, but it's just the starting point, because ahimsa is a negative concept. Himsa means harm. Ahimsa means no harm. Don't do harm. That's the basic point. But if I don't do harm and I just sit in a cave, I'm not doing any harm. If I just stabdha, I just stay like a stone, I'm not doing any harm. The stone is doing no harm, isn't it? The stone does no harm to anyone. Just sits there. But that's ahimsa. Even a stone can practice ahimsa. But that is not sufficient for a human being. For us, we are asked to positively, to actively do something good for another. This is sauhridam. That we have to say, no, how can I benefit another living entity? What can I do to help someone else? We are held to a higher standard of what this sauhridam means. And therein comes this point that a Vaishnava in every circumstance, in every place, thinks, what can I do in my situation that will benefit another? Dadichi Muni makes this point so beautifully in Srimad Bhagavatam. In the story of Vritrasura, when Indra comes to Dadichi Muni, Indra needs the Vajra, the special weapon to kill Vritrasura. And he is told that this Vajra can only be made from the bones of this great rishi, this great sage, Dadichi Muni. And he goes to Dadichi Muni and he's praying to him, please give me your bones, namely, give me your life. And Dadichi Muni says, initially he's teasing Indra. He says, why should I give you my bones? My life is dear to me just like your life is dear to you. And Indra is becoming more and more frightened and frustrated and upset. And finally Dadichi Muni says, you see, every limb, every inch of this human body is made only for the benefit of others. That there is practically nothing in this material body for which we can claim credit for ourselves. Nothing is our own. The strength in our bones, the strength in our body is given to us by our parents first. And then from then on, every person who grows our food, who gives us shelter, who gives us education, we are born in this world with one debt after another. Debt to our parents, debt to the great sages who have given us knowledge, debt to our ancestors, debt to the devas, the demigods who are giving us wind and rain. We are born in debt, and we spend our whole lives trying to repay this debt. This body does not belong to us. It's only meant for the benefit of others. So take it. Take it all. But the highest welfare work, Srila Prabhupada, he describes, is how can we then complete this circle of dharma and say, if the highest dharma is to connect, to hear Krishna Katha, to hear Krishna's Leela, and if the evidence of that attachment is my willingness to be kind to other living entities, then let me be kind to others by giving them also this highest dharma. And therefore from that point comes this idea that telling others about Krishna Katha, hearing ourselves and giving others that opportunity for Leela Smarana, for thinking of Krishna's pastimes, there can be no higher welfare work than that. No higher compassion, bhuta sauhridam, than that activity. But here's the thing. Preaching, yes, this is our mission, right? This is our goal. But preaching has to be done with this sense, with this feeling, that how can I benefit this person before me? Too often when we preach, the preaching is about me, not about the person in front of me. Why? Well, I know these, 5, 10 different things. Let me tell this person. Why? So that this person is impressed by the quality of my knowledge. Or this is what I have been told is preaching, so we have this set formula, and off we go. You meet someone, off we go. This and this and this and this and this. And one after another, we tell them all these things. But in the process, we forget what is the heart of preaching. The heart of preaching is to ask, where is this person at in front of me? And how can I help him or her? That is the essence of preaching, is to ask. Preaching is centered upon the person being preached to, not the preacher. Not the preacher. When the preaching is centered on the preacher, it simply becomes a way to nourish our own pride. It becomes a way to nourish our own arrogance. I'm doing such nice preaching. Is anyone watching? Is this person impressed or not? And if the question is, if our intent is focused on us, we cannot touch another person's heart. It's still selfish. Therefore, it is not the highest dharma. But when we are focused on that person, it's student-centered and not teacher-centered. The best education is centered on the student, not on the teacher. Then that becomes transformative. And we see these preaching techniques, this approach, this mood, not technique, this mood of preaching in Srimad Bhagavatam, especially in the character of Narada Muni. If you look at Narada Muni, his approach to every person is different. Based on what? Not his mood that day, not his knowledge or what he just learned. It's based on the need of the person in front of him. So I give you one very striking example relevant to this verse. When Narada Muni meets Mrigari, right, in Chaitanya Charitamrita is described, and he's going to the forest and he sees the animals with broken legs, dying a slow, painful death. Mrigari is enjoying this. He's the enemy of the animals. And Narada Muni is pained by this. Bhuta sauhridam, right? This is suhridam sarvadehinam. This verse is there in Bhagavatam, Kapila Muni, titikshava karunika, suhridam sarvadehinam, ajata shatrava shanta. If you read this verse, I don't know if you've ever thought of this, but every single quality listed there has to do with compassion to other living entities. Every single one. Titikshava, tolerance. Who are we tolerating? The troubles that others give us, right? Karunika, mercy. Ajata shatru, having no enemy. Shanta, every one of these, suhridam sarvadehinam, is on this point. Bhuta sauhridam. It's the essence of this quality of a sadhu. Sadhunam sadhu bhushanam. Anyway, so Narada Muni, he sees these Mrigari killing the animals, and he asks, who has done this? And when Mrigari comes out and claims credit for having done, responsibility for having done this, what is Narada Muni's first instruction to Mrigari? His first instruction is kill the animals fully. And when he goes to meet Prachina Barishat, what is Narada Muni's instructions? Don't kill the animals, even for yajna. Now someone can look at this and say, completely opposite instructions. The same devotee giving opposite instructions. To one person, he is saying, don't kill the animals. To the other person, he is saying, kill the animal. Why? Because for someone who is taking pleasure in killing the animal, the first thing to do, who's partially killing, the first step is kill them fully. And for someone who is engaged in Vedic yajna, their next state of advancement is to give up karma kanda and come to at least the level of jnana. Right? Here's the point. Narada Muni meets every person where they are at and asks them to advance from that point. This is the quality of a preacher. A preacher is Krishna conscious. How? By being conscious of the jiva, of the living entity in front of him. And saying, where can I meet this person? Where they are at. Let me start where they are at. And so if, as devotees, we meet someone who is an alcoholic or a smoker or whatever, and we just get them to give up that cigarette, even by giving them some philosophy which is a little bit lower, it's okay, right? It's okay. We have helped them advance because that's where they are at. Whereas otherwise we meet a child who is already attached to Krishna in a deep way. We may have to help them, rise to the level of something much, much higher. Narada Muni's instructions to Dhruva are very different than his instructions to Prahlad, if you compare the two in Srimad Bhagavatam. For Dhruva Maharaj, he attempts to give him the highest instruction. Just become detached, don't be, what are you going after all this wealth? But Dhruva says, no, I need this, right? I need this money, I need this wealth. Whereas his instructions to Prahlad are all about renunciation. Why are you in this well of family life and so attached? Whereas Dhruva, he's showing him the path, how to get more power and money and so on, because he knows that his path of purification is that way, whereas Prahlad's is a different way. This is the meaning of Bhuta Sauhridam for us as Vaishnavas, as devotees. To ask ourselves, who is this person before me? And we see this quality in Srila Prabhupada so beautifully. That Prabhupada would preach to if you read his conversations, lectures, if he met a professor, if he met a housewife, if he met a businessman, if he met a child, every person, he would give them Krishna in a different way, in a way that was suitable for their understanding. Why? Because he was seeing them, right? Preaching is not about the preacher. It is about the person who is before us, the recipient. And when we are conscious of that recipient, when we actually see their need and we respond to that need, that is Bhuta Sauhridam. That is the quality of a devotee. That is the softness of a devotee's heart. And let me tell you this, that when someone meets a person like that in their life, they know that something is different, right? They cannot resist hearing from that person because their heart is touched. It is so rare to find a person who focuses on you rather than themselves. And just that simple quality, when it is present, it changes a person's heart. Someone looks at that and says, I'm ready to give my life to this person. That is the quality of a Vaishnava. So there's so many wonderful things in this verse. Our whole talk was focused just on that first line because Srila Prabhupada focuses on that first line. Bhuta Sauhridam. Dharma kvachit tatra na bhuta sauhridam. But each one of these lines in this verse has something very profound, very powerful to say. But considering that it's 9 o'clock, I will stop here and see if anyone has any questions or comments that they want to say for another 5 minutes or so, and then we conclude. So, any questions, comments, or additions anyone has? Yes, Prabhu. Can you speak up a little bit?
Like you said, in our community, the
Yes. So the question is, even though we practice Krishna consciousness, why the taste does not come, right? That's, yeah, and there are many different causes for that. But you see, in order for taste to be present, several things have to be there. The circumstances have to be right. We have to hear, number one, from the right sources. Then the taste, when someone has taste, they can give that taste also. This is a point about rasa, is there, that when you're watching a play or a drama, that in order for rasa to be present, every aspect of it has to have rasa present. The actors in the drama have to be able to convey rasa. Those who are watching have to be a sahridaya. They have to be people who can feel that rasa. And the play being depicted has to be of good quality also. Then rasa can be present, when all of those factors are there. If one factor is missing, the actors are great, but the audience they're duffers, right? Then they cannot appreciate. Rasa is not there. The audience is really good, but the actors are poor. They cannot convey. Then everyone is bored. So, or if the drama, the subject matter is useless, then, so all those factors have to be there. So the same thing happens when we're trying to cultivate this taste, this rasa in Krishna consciousness, that all those factors have to be there. Those who are giving, those who are performing, that is, whom we are hearing Krishna Katha from, they have to have that quality present, right? Those who are hearing, they also have to have at least the softness of heart, the purity of heart. That is, they have to be free of offenses. When the offenses are present within the heart, especially the namaparad, then that taste does not come. And the subject matter that is being discussed has to be also of topmost pure quality. Otherwise, it also doesn't have that quality, right? So when those three factors are put together and we practice, then the heart can become soft. And so in the Nectar of Instruction, Rupa Goswami describes so nicely that our condition is like a jaundiced state, where even sweet rock candy, it feels bitter to us because we have jaundice. But the only cure for that is to keep eating the rock candy, then it becomes sweet. So assuming that we are hearing from the right source, Srila Prabhupada is a great source, and assuming that we are in the company of other wonderful Vaishnavas, right? We have good sadhu sangha. Then if we continue this practicing of hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam, right, on a regular basis, the taste will come. The taste will come. It just takes a little bit of time. Other questions or comments? Yes, Prabhu.
So I'm getting confused as a layman. Which is more important? First, who Suranda are getting out of two? Which is more important?
Which is more important, Krishna Katha or Bhuta Sauhridam? The answer is that they are two sides of the same coin. Means that Bhuta Sauhridam is not possible without real Bhuta Sauhridam, without Krishna Katha, without attachment to Krishna. Because if the attachment to Krishna is not there, our compassion to other living entities will be merely on the bodily platform, or at most, it'll be selfishly oriented. Even you want to love the world, right? So people start, I love my family. Everyone does this. Someone a little more advanced, so you make a circle around you, my family. Someone a little more advanced, the circle is bigger. No, my neighborhood, my community, my caste. Someone who's a little more advanced, the circle is bigger. My nation. Someone who's even more advanced says, my world, the whole human community. Someone who's even more advanced says every living entity in this world, the whole universe. But even if the circle is this big, who's at the center of the circle still? Me, right? That never changed. So I love the whole world. Every living entity is my brother and sister. That idea you can find many places, but it's still centered on me. It'll still be selfish. It will still be limited, because in reality we cannot love many people. It's not humanly possible. So the key is to move the center of the circle from us and put Krishna in the center. Then we can love other living entities properly. And if someone genuinely loves other living entities, then they will be lovers of Krishna. Right? They are two sides of the same coin. You cannot have one without the other. That's the principle. That's the point that Lakshmi Devi is making here. That dharma without bhuta sauhridam is empty. Right? The two have to go together. True dharma, paro dharma, and bhuta sauhridam are identical. Yes, bro. Final question, then we stop here. So you raise a very, very important point, actually. A point I wanted to make and I forgot, which is this. That this suhridam sarvabhutanam, right? This quality can be both a good quality and a problem for a devotee. You see, when we think, I am the friend of all living entities, with me at the center, that can become the cause of our fall down. This is the problem with Jad Bharat. Right? Jad Bharat had this mood, suhridam sarvabhutanam. Oh, this animal is there. But he forgot that my duty in relation to this animal is limited. Beyond that, it's Krishna's responsibility. Right? And so, in this mood, I'm the protector, he became attached and he fell down. This is Arjuna's problem in Bhagavad-Gita also. That sohridam bhutanam is there, right? But he's thinking, I am going to help them. Why? By taking care of them, by not killing them. And Krishna's point is, no, suhridam sarva bhutanam, that's me, right? Bhoktaram yagitapasam sarva. I am the friend of all living entities, not you. So a devotee is the friend of all living beings, but only because he recognizes that it is my role, my job, to connect this person to his actual friend. That Krishna is everyone's real sakha. He's everyone's real friend. He is suhridam sarvabhutanam. So I can be the friend of all living entities by connecting him to his source, right? So when that's the friendship of a devotee, right? That's the mood of a devotee. And if in the process, if we start thinking, I am the center, then we end up falling down, right? And so often fall down happens by a so-called act of kindness. So there's a brahmachari, suppose, an example, right? And he's thinking, I have to preach. Oh, and then this one Mataji comes and he's preaching and preaching. I must take care of her. I must answer her questions. And pretty soon what happens? My spiritual life is finished. Her spiritual life is also finished, right? Or I'm thinking, oh, I have to help. This person is giving me something. Some food to eat. I must be kind to this person. Let me eat it. Let me not offend them. But what happens in the principle? I lose I eat the meat, or like you're describing, right? Or I take this something which is not prasad. And in the process, I've lost my principles and I've not helped this person at all. Why? Because I was thinking, I am the friend, instead of thinking, how can I connect this person with Krishna? So it's a very important and very subtle distinction. That suhridam sarvabhutanam it works for a devotee when we think not I am the friend of all living entities, but I am this person's friend because I'm going to connect him to this person's real friend. That is how I'm a well-wisher. And in that way we can stay protected. Otherwise, this compassion is a quality that Maya can use for her own purposes. This is the story of Arjun, right, in Bhagavad-Gita. Prabhupada describes this as misplaced compassion. He says that the compassion that Arjun felt is a result of the softness of his heart. He's a devotee. That's why he's compassionate. But the compassionate is misplaced because it is not properly connected with Krishna. And Krishna, by the point of chapter 11 or even 10, he makes this clear. Look, Arjun, I am their friend. I'm going to decide who lives and who dies. You help me. Right? Nimitta matra bhava savya sacha. And then you will really be a friend to this person. So this is a very important principle to remember, that our compassion and kindness has to be in the context of, well, how can I best be Krishna's representative in this particular situation and help this person? It may mean helping this person by giving them some food. It may be by staying away. That we have to say. Just like in the airlines they say, right? Put on your own mask first, then help the person sitting next to you. This is a good principle to follow in Krishna consciousness also. We put on our own mask first, then we help the person sitting next to us. Okay. Yes? So thank you all so much. I know there are a couple more hands we can discuss individually afterwards, but I want to thank you all so much for this opportunity and for your attention. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.